this is our y-intercept. So I'm going to write that down. This is our y-intercept, which also means that A, because remember A, oh, good deal, thank you. Which also means that A equals 6, because we're writing an equation that models this. Y equals A, parenthesis, B to the power of X. So we already know that A is 6. Okay. So what if I were to tell you that you know that this is an X coordinate and this is a Y coordinate, right? Don't you know that? Yeah. So let's just try and solve that. Let's plug those values in. So we know an X, a Y, and an A. And we're going to plug it into this equation. So I'm going to write plug in your X, your Y, and your A, because those are all the values that we know. So let's see. Y is 48 equals A is 6 times B. Well, we don't know what B is, so we're going to leave it there. To the power of, well, X is 3. So I just want to remind you of some exponent rules and some multiplying rules. So I'm going to simplify this one time. 48 equals 6b cubed. That's what this is saying. If I try to get B all by itself, if I'm trying to get B all by itself, what do I have to do first? What do I have to do first? It's not a subtraction problem. That would be the opposite of divide. Good job. We're going to divide both sides by 6. So this says 8 equals B cubed. This means that 8 is some number to the third power. Some number to the third power. Well, if that number doesn't jump off the page for you, how can we figure that out? Well, we're going to have to take the cubed root of it, because the cube root of B cubed gives me B. Yes, it does. And the cube root of 8 is 2. So we know what A is and we know what B is. So let's write an equation for that. So our equation is going to be Y equals 6 parenthesis 2 to the power of X. Now, if I wanted to check that, I'm going to shrink my screen up a second, and I want to show you how to check that. So if I wanted to do a check on this, I would go to Desmos, and I'm going to put this equation into Desmos, because I want to just see if it really works, right? So my equation is Y equals 6 parenthesis 2 to the power of, and that's my caret button, Braden. I did shift 6, just so you know. X, you're welcome. And then I'm going to hit the table button, because I want to see a table of values. And so I want to see that when X is 0, Y is 6, and when X is 3, Y is 48 in my table. So when X is 0, Y is 6, and when X is 3, Y is 48. So we have done that. Okay? Does that make sense? How to check that? Okay. So let's do another one. Oops, I did not mean for that to happen. Sorry about that. So we're going to go down to example number 2. Now, example number 2 does not have the initial value. Example number 2 is different than example number 1, because example number 1, I gave you the initial value. And example number 2, I didn't do that. So here's what I want you to think about. Remember that this is an X, and this is a Y, and this is an X, and this is a Y. So I'm going to write 2 equations, much like a system. So Y equals A times B to the power of X. So I'm going to write 2 equations. My first equation, we're going to call it, I'm not going to number it. Just my first equation is going to be Y, well, that's 21, equals A times B to the power of X, which is 1. That's my first equation. I plugged in my x and my y. Does everybody see what we did there? All we did was plugged in the x and the y to the original function. Okay. My second equation, same thing. Y is 147 equals A times B, but now my x is 2. So I'm going to write a little note that says plug in x and y for 2 equations. So those are our 2 equations. That's what we did first. The next thing that we're going to do is solve for A with one of your equations. Solve for A. So I'm going to take this first equation and I'm going to solve it for A. So 21 equals A times B to the first. I have a question. What is B to the first power? It's just B. That's why I'm using that one. B to the first power is just B. If I wanted to solve for A, if I'm trying to get A all by itself, what do I have to do? Trying to solve for A. I want to get A all by itself. Divide both sides by B. I'm going to divide this side by B and this side by B. So A is actually 21 over B. That's what the value of A is. So just like a system, I'm going to take my second equation and I'm going to use A equals 21 over B, and I'm going to plug in to the second equation. You thought systems only worked for linear functions, right? So let's look at our second equation. Our second equation is 147 equals A times B squared. Well, I'm going to rewrite it as 147 equals, what is A? What does A actually equal? Yeah, 21. I'm just going to plug that in. So A is 21 over B times B squared. Okay, so now I want you to think about exponent rules. Exponent rules. Let's see. Well, this is 147 equals 21 over B times B squared over 1. That's what that really is saying. So when I multiply straight across, I have 147 equals 21 B squared over B. What can I do with my B squared and my B? How do I write that as a exponent rule? What is the rule really saying? Am I adding, subtracting? Am I multiplying or dividing? What operation is taking place here? Divide. So this piece that I have circled in blue is the same thing as 21b to the second power minus the first power, right? Because when you divide, remember when you divide, you subtract exponents. You guys remember that rule? When you divide, you subtract the exponents. So what is 2 minus 1? It's 1. So this really simplifies to 147 equals 21b. So how do I find out what b is? Yeah, you're going to divide both sides. Good job, Brayden. Divide both sides by 21, and you find out that b equals 7. B equals 7. So much like a system, I know what b equals. I have to go back in and find a. So the last thing is now solve for a. And I'm going to use the fact that a equals 21 divided by b, because that's what we saw when we simplified that equation. Do you guys see that? We said a is 21 divided by b. So a equals 21 divided by 7, which means A equals what? 3. A equals 3. So can we write an equation? We know our A and our B, so what's our equation for this function? I'm going to wait because you guys are thinking. We know our A and our B, so what is the equation for this function? You're modeling y equals A times B to the power of x. What is the equation for this function? Someone be brave and say it. Y equals 3 times 7 to the power of x. Perfect. Let's check it in Desmos. Do you want to check it? I think that's a good tool to use, right? Checking in Desmos. So we came up with the equation y equals 3 times 7 to the power of x. So let's just put that in there. Y equals 3 times 7 to the power of x. And remember, I'm going to click this gear and tell it I want the table of values. So let's see. Our first ordered pair was the ordered pair 1, 21. And that's present. Do you guys see that? That's our first ordered pair, 1, 21. Our second ordered pair was the ordered pair 2, 147. And that's also there. Okay. So that's how you do that. That is how you do that. So this is actually your 5.2b. This is your 5.2b journal entry. 5.2b journal entry. Oh, wait. Guys, close your Chromebooks. Some of you guys are multitasking and you're not paying attention. Close them up. So this is your 5.2b journal.